obviously you work a lot in the States. How's this gone down stateside? I mean, obviously the PR disaster with the Mother's Day photo has played badly both sides of the Atlantic. But how has it gone down with, I think there's people like Stephen Colbert and there's other celebrities and members of the public that have been quite insulting to the Princess of Wales. Has there been a changing attitude since this video?
I think there's been an element of shame. Matt, I have to say, actually, I've been appalled at how the coverage unfolded. It's a very big year in the US politically, and there are a huge number of problems domestically. Migrant crisis at the border. Of course, now we're ramping up to the election, and with that comes a lot of animosity and a lot of headbutting. And I think the royal family sometimes serves as a little bit of a distraction, and it can be viewed on occasion as a bit of a soap opera. And I think people just forgot their humanity in the process, and it became almost a game of topping. And I think it's presented quite an interesting fork in the road for mainstream media, because it's one thing for us to say this is what's happening on social media, but what is it when social media is informing the news? And so this hashtag, where is Kate Middleton, falling down the rabbit hole, the celebrities really started to get in on that. And Blake Lively actually did issue an apology. It was probably the most sincere apology of all of them. But there were mainstream media personalities who people look to for truth and authenticity and accuracy, using words like missing and disappeared. And I thought that was quite insidious, because that's giving legitimacy to those conspiracy theories and validating them in a way, which then enabled other personalities to really get in on the action. So where before it might have been kind of your D-list celebrities, we're talking about the morning show hosts, trickling then into the news magazine shows that are on in the afternoon, then going into the late night comics. I think overall they recognise that they behaved appallingly. There have been some apologies, some are a bit more sincere than others. Some have qualified it with, well, I'm sorry about this, but a cancer diagnosis never should get a but in my book. But I hope that it gives them pause moving forwards, because going back to your point, I think particularly in the US, where they're often just seeing photographs, the royals are seen as sort of two-dimensional figures that are devoid of human emotion, devoid of feelings, considered to be tremendously privileged. Why should we feel sorry for them? And I don't think the royals ever ask for anybody's pity. They're sharing their stories in a very brave fashion. But I think there's quite a few people who could still stand to apologise. But I think they were very impressed with the princess's delivery.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a shameful episode. It's been a shameful couple of weeks, and I hope people learn lessons, end the era of conspiracy theory and start trusting, the mainstream media. But based on your experience, how do you think Kate and William coped, and how do you think they would have been feeling before, when all the abuse was happening, and then after they've made the video? How do you think the members of the royal family would actually deal with this?
Well, they would have been feeling incredibly upset with all these conspiracy theories and all these sort of innuendos coming out of social media. And I'm not going to differentiate which social media. It's social media, the lot, as a platform. And I suppose there are those who will say, well, they were forced into issuing the video last week. No, they weren't. They wanted to get the message out loud and clear that she does have a cancer and she's not going to be back after Easter, as was hoped right at the beginning when she had the operation. But they would have been feeling upset and angry that intelligent people, you think they're intelligent anyway, could come out with such theories. I mean, a BBC sports reporter coming out after The Sun released that video of William and Catherine at the Windsor Farm Shop. She's saying it's a body double. I mean, how outrageous is that? Just to come out because everybody else is having a conspiracy theory on the social media, so I might as well join them as well. Has there been an apology? Of course not. Has there been an apology from the BBC? Of course not.
But it was because she's got BBC there, that's what I mean about the validation. So one of the morning magazine shows in the US, you've got 5 hosts that all have a news background, and one of them actually said on air, she said, well, all the royals have body doubles for security purposes. And she went, I read it. And it's
Dickie,
like,
do they have body doubles?
I haven't seen any.
but this is why it sort of spiraled out of control. And Matt, I'm so glad you raised William in particular, because I think if we look at him for just a moment, in a relatively short space of time, he lost both his paternal grandparents, whom he was very close to. The Queen was a tremendous mentor over the years. His father was diagnosed with cancer. His brother left the royal family in an acrimonious fashion. They're still at odds. He's trying to bring up 3 young children. Now, he's a dad. He does not get a medal for raising his 3 young children.
That's his job.
That's his job. You know, we're not going to give him a pass on that. But he's also conducting his role as the heir to the throne. He's having to hold down all his royal responsibilities while caring for his wife, while maintaining the emotional stability for his children. It is a lot to bear for one person. And yes, privilege does afford you some help behind the scenes, but that doesn't take away the emotional strain of everything that he's dealing with. And so I think sometimes people just assume that, oh, he's fine. But I think when you put it all on paper, everything that he's going through, and yet still, the London Ambulance charity night was a fantastic night. He was joking with Tom Cruise. He then went and conducted all his other engagements and was so focused on other people, had a smile on his face, did the job that was expected of him, and yet then when you think of the emotional turmoil that he was going through, I think he does deserve the credit.
I mean, when you think last week he was up in Sheffield, just days before that video was released, and you would never believe for a moment the way that he was engaging with the people there, that he had the weight of this video on his mind, the 100%. Weight of his wife's cancer on his mind.
I was there and he was on great form, and you wouldn't have known.
No.
What they were saying there, and it was obvious, was how plugged in he was to that Sheffield event. It was about his homeward scheme, and there was a chap in there who's really nice. I don't know if it made much coverage, but he was telling him about his life, and he spoke to his aide afterwards and said, I need that guy's number. You know, I need that. He was a man who had been to jail, been homeless, had drugs and drinks problems, and he walked out and he said, please get me that guy's number. I want to get him on board and stuff like that. You know,
the one thing with William, everything that he does, he's plugged into. He knows exactly where he's going. He knows the people he's going to be meeting. He knows their background. So he doesn't go with, who are you, what do you do, sort of thing. He knows exactly what he's doing. And that's why he's so personable, why he can engage with people at every level, and why he was so good, as you saw last week, engaging with people in Sheffield.
I'm so glad, though, Matt, that you raised that too, because that's a perfect illustration of who he is. And those are the stories, unfortunately, that people don't hear. When we were living at Kensington Palace, Diana, Princess of Wales, was going out late at night and giving money. I mean, I hope it's not inappropriate to say, but she would go, and ladies of the night that were working, and she would give them money and say, don't work tonight, go home. These are the types of things that are never reported. It's these personal moments behind the scenes. And so for William to do that, that is something that he will follow through on. And that's what will then make such a significant difference in that man's life. And it kind of goes back to the Prince's Trust, doesn't it? That's why then Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, started the Prince's Trust, because it was people that were down on their luck, having alcohol problems, had come out of prison, had no opportunities ahead for them. And so that's somehow sort of William carrying through both his parents' legacy.
Which is why William is so focused on the homeless, because his mother took him out at night to see how the homeless were coping. And that would have been in his teens, and it would have been firmly imprinted in his mind. And knowing what his father did, starting, as Victoria said, the Prince's Trust, he started it in 1976 when he came out of the Navy. That was an organisation to help young people. To say that young people in the UK don't know anything about the monarchy, which is absolute rubbish, because they know exactly. They know how the Prince's Trust, for example, does help young people. Look at Idris Elba, actor, well known. I mean, he's never off our screens. He was given £1,500 to go to drama school. That's the sort of thing that the Prince's Trust did. Help young entrepreneurs, help young people who've got talent to further that talent by helping them go to drama school. Help young people who've got an entrepreneurial idea to start the business and show an element of success. Show young people who are young offenders how they can make way in their life without offending. And it has worked. It worked. Certainly when I was Prince of Wales, the King's Press Secretary, he had a camp at Caister, Great Yarmouth, for young people, a mix of young offenders. They went in at the beginning of the week, surly, well, I don't know why I'm here and I don't want to cooperate. But by the end of the week, they were cooperating each other. They were a team of people. And when Charles arrived, then as Prince of Wales, they were all over him like a rash. They thought he was the greatest thing, having given this opportunity. And William does exactly the same.